She sat on a stranger's lap at the masquerade to escape her hunter ex tracking her down. What she didn't know, the man whose throne she claimed was the ancient vampire king, and his whispered words that night bound her to him in ways she never imagined. The bass thrummed through Myra's chest like a second heartbeat as she descended the spiral staircase into the underground ballroom. Crystal chandeliers dripped from vaulted ceilings, casting fractured light across masked faces, some human, some decidedly not. A woman with silver skin laughed beside a man whose eyes glowed amber. A group in the corner had fangs that caught the light when they smiled. The Midnight Masquerade. The one night a year when the treaty held absolute. Mira adjusted her burgundy mask, her hands trembling. She shouldn't have come. But staying home meant Damien would find her alone, and she'd learned 3 months ago that locked doors meant nothing to a hunter with connections. Just blend in, she whispered to herself. 2 hours. Then leave. The crowd shifted, and Myra's blood turned to ice. Damien stood near the entrance, his hunter's coat unmistakable even in the dim light. His eyes, cold, calculating, scanned the room systematically.
He was supposed to be in Prague.
The council meeting. That's what he'd told her when she'd finally worked up the courage to break their engagement 2 weeks ago. He'd lied. He'd been tracking her. Their eyes met across the ballroom. His smile was the same one he'd worn when he'd proposed. When he'd isolated her from her friends. When he'd convinced her that his protection rituals were normal. Myra's breath caught. She turned and shoved through the crowd, ignoring the irritated hisses and muttered curses. The music swelled, a violin screaming over electronic beats. Bodies pressed against her from all sides. Someone grabbed her wrist. Leaving so soon, little bird.
Damien.
His fingers dug into her skin hard enough to bruise. Let go, Mira hissed, yanking back. The treaty protected her here. He couldn't hurt her. Not openly. We need to talk about what you stole from me. His voice was velvet over steel. You think you can just walk away? After everything I've invested in you? I didn't steal anything. The mark, Mira, his grip tightened. You have no idea what you're carrying. A server passed between them, and Mira seized the moment. She ripped free and ran, her heels clicking against marble as she fled toward the back of the ballroom. Away from the entrance. Away from the crowd. She burst through an archway into a quieter chamber and stopped. The throne room. Elevated on a dais at the far end sat a figure that made every instinct in her body scream danger. His mask was midnight black, covering the upper half of his face, but his jawline was sharp enough to cut. Dark hair fell to his shoulders. He wore a suit that probably cost more than her apartment, and he sat completely still, watching the masquerade below with the patience of a predator.
No.
Not just a predator. A king. The Vampire King. She'd heard whispers about him. Aldrich, the ancient one who'd brokered the treaty centuries ago. The one even hunters feared. Footsteps echoed behind her. Damien was coming. Myra's heart hammered. She had seconds. Maybe less. She ran. Not away.
Toward.
The vampire's eyes tracked her movement, impossibly dark, like staring into a starless sky. She took the dais steps 2 at a time, her dress tangling around her legs. Guard stepped forward, hands on weapons, but she was already moving. Mira dropped into the king's lap. The throne room fell silent. Even the distant music seemed to pause. She felt the vampire tense beneath her, every muscle coiled tight. His scent overwhelmed her. Night-blooming jasmine and something darker, something that tasted like danger on her tongue. Please, Mira breathed against his ear, her voice breaking. Pretend you know me. Just for tonight. Please. For one terrible moment. Nothing happened. Then his hand came up, settling on her waist with terrifying gentleness. His thumb traced a slow circle against her ribs, and Mira felt the touch like a brand. He leaned in, his lips brushing her ear. His voice was silk and smoke and promises that should never be made. Very well, Little mortal, his breath was cool against her skin. But this choice binds you to me tonight. Do you understand? Once I claim you as mine before the court, you cannot simply walk away when dawn comes. Myra's throat went dry. But Damien's footsteps were getting closer, and she could hear his rage in every step. I understand, she whispered. The vampire's smile pressed against her temple. Brave little thing. Or foolish. We'll see which. Damien burst through the archway, hunters flanking him on both sides. His face was twisted with fury. Mira, step away from him.
Now.
The vampire's hand tightened on her waist, not painful, but unmistakably possessive. When he spoke, his voice carried through the chamber with absolute authority. Hunter, the word was laced with centuries of disdain. You enter my domain. You pursue a woman under my protection. You dare give orders in my presence. His other hand came up, fingers threading through Myra's hair with surprising tenderness. This one is my companion for the evening. Do you contest my claim? Damien's jaw clenched. Around them, the ballroom had gone silent. Even the music had stopped. Mira could feel dozens of eyes on them, supernatural and human alike, all waiting to see if the treaty would hold. She's a runaway, Damien said, his voice shaking with barely controlled rage. She's confused. Under duress. She chose to sit in my lap. The vampire's amusement was palpable. Quite deliberately, I might add. I find no duress in that action. Do you, little mortal? Mira forced herself to meet Damien's eyes. I chose him. Leave me alone. Something dark flashed across Damien's face, something that made Myra's stomach turn. She'd seen that look before, in private, when he thought no one was watching. This isn't over, Damien said quietly. You have something that belongs to me, Mira, and I will get it back. He turned and left, his hunters following like trained dogs. Only when the archway was empty did Mira allow herself to breathe. Well, the vampire's voice held dark amusement. That was entertaining. Now then, little mortal. His hand caught her chin, tilting her face toward his. Even through the mask, his eyes seemed to see straight through her. Why don't you tell me why a hunter was so desperate to reclaim you? And more importantly, his thumb pressed against her wrist, right where Damien had grabbed her. His expression changed, darkening into something cold and dangerous. Why do you have a dormant hunter's mark burning beneath your skin? Myra's world tilted. I don't know what you're. Don't lie to me, his voice dropped to a lethal whisper. I can feel it. Ancient magic, sealed and waiting. You're marked, little mortal, which means you're either a weapon, his eyes locked on hers, or you're the key to something far more dangerous than either of us. The ballroom doors exploded inward. Hunters poured through the entrance, weapons drawn, and the masquerade dissolved into screaming chaos. The sanctuary shattered in seconds. Hunters flooded the ballroom like a plague, their silver weapons gleaming under the chandeliers. The masquerade guests scattered, vampires hissing, witches throwing up shields, humans screaming as they dove for exits that were already blocked. Breach of treaty, someone shouted. They've broken the peace. Aldrich moved with inhuman speed. One moment Mira was in his lap, the next she was on her feet, his body a shield between her and the chaos. His hand remained locked around her wrist, not painful, but absolutely unyielding. Stay behind me, he commanded. A hunter lunged at them, crossbow raised. Aldrich didn't even look. He flicked his free hand, and the hunter flew backward, crashing through a marble column. Find the girl. Damien's voice cut through the chaos. She has the convergence mark. Don't let the vampire king take her. Convergence mark? Myra's mind reeled. She'd never heard that term before. Aldrich's grip on her wrist tightened. His thumb pressed against her pulse point, and Mira felt something, a heat, a burning sensation spreading from where he touched her. His eyes widened fractionally. Impossible, he breathed. This mark, it's been extinct for 300 years. I don't understand. Of course you don't, his laugh was bitter. That's what makes you perfect bait. 3 hunters rushed the dais. Aldrich moved like liquid shadow, faster than Myra's eyes could track. The first hunter dropped, clutching his throat. The second flew over the railing. The third managed to fire a crossbow bolt. Aldrich caught it midair, inches from Myra's chest. His expression went absolutely cold. "You dare," his voice dropped to something inhuman, something ancient and terrible. "You attack what I've claimed as mine." Power exploded from him, invisible but devastating. Every hunter within 20 feet dropped to their knees, gasping. The chandeliers swayed. Cracks spiderwebbed across the marble floor. Damien stood at the ballroom entrance, protected by some kind of ward that glowed sickly green. His eyes locked on Mira with an obsession that made her skin crawl. "She's not yours," Damien shouted. "I spent 2 years preparing her. I performed the awakening ritual myself. The mark is bound to me." "Is it?" Aldrich's smile was all fangs. "Because I'm touching it right now, Hunter, and I feel no trace of your pathetic magic. Only raw, unclaimed power." He pulled Mira closer. "Which means your ritual failed. She belongs to no one inch. Then I'll kill her before I let you have her." Damien raised his hand, and a dozen hunters aimed their weapons. The ballroom erupted into full war. Vampires clashed with hunters. Magic crackled through the air. Someone screamed as fire engulfed the eastern wall. Aldrich swept Mira into his arms without warning. She gasped, instinctively clutching his shoulders as he launched them off the dais. He landed in a crouch, moved through the chaos like smoke, too fast for anyone to track. "Where are we going?" Mira shouted over the noise. "Somewhere they can't follow." He ran toward what looked like a solid wall, then passed through it like water. Myra's stomach lurched as reality twisted around them. They were in a narrow stone corridor, lit by torches that burned with eerie blue flames. The sounds of battle faded behind them. Aldrich set her down but kept one hand on her arm, steering her deeper into the tunnel. The catacombs, Mira realized, her voice echoing off ancient stone. These run under the entire city. "Quick mind." "Good." Aldrich didn't slow his pace. "You'll need it if you want to survive what's coming." "What is coming? What's a convergence mark?" He stopped abruptly, turning to face her. In the blue firelight, his features were sharper, more inhuman. Beautiful and terrifying. "Give me your hand." "Why?"
"Now."
Mira extended her trembling hand. Aldrich pushed up her sleeve, exposing her forearm. At first she saw nothing. Then he pressed his thumb against her skin, and light blazed beneath her flesh, intricate symbols spiraling from her wrist to her elbow, glowing like molten gold. Myra's breath caught.
"What?"
"What is that?" "A hunter's mark from the old bloodlines. The families who could kill vampire royalty with a touch." His expression was unreadable. "It marks you as a potential executioner. A weapon capable of ending anyone in the supernatural hierarchy." "But I've never trained. I'm not a hunter."
"No."
"You're something rarer." His eyes met hers. "You're the key. Every 5 centuries, a mark like this awakens in someone from the original hunter bloodlines. Whoever controls that person controls the balance of power between our worlds." Horror washed over Mira.
"Damien."
"He didn't love me. He was just using you." "Yes." Aldrich released her arm, and the light faded. He tried to bind the mark to himself. If he'd succeeded, he could have controlled you like a puppet. Made you kill whoever he wanted dead. The tunnel shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. Distant shouts echoed through the catacombs. Hunters, getting closer. "They've found the entrance," Aldrich said grimly. He grabbed her hand.
"Run. Now."
They plunged deeper into darkness, the blue flames casting twisted shadows on the walls. Behind them, Mira heard Damien's voice echoing through the tunnels. "You can't hide her forever, vampire. The mark is mine. She's mine." Aldrich's hand tightened on hers. "We'll see about that." The catacombs twisted like a maze designed by madness itself. Myra's lungs burned as Aldrich pulled her through passages so narrow her shoulders scraped stone. The blue flames flickered and danced, casting their faces in ghostly light. How far do these go? Mira gasped.
Miles.
Built during the first war between our kinds, Aldrich didn't sound even slightly winded. Most entrances were sealed. Your ex-fiancé just unsealed one, which means he's more connected than I thought. They rounded a corner, and Aldrich stopped so suddenly that Mira crashed into his back. His body was cold, solid as marble. He raised one hand for silence. Footsteps. Multiple sets, echoing from at least 3 different directions. They've split up to flank us, Aldrich murmured. His eyes gleamed in the darkness. Clever. Damien knows these tunnels. How is that possible? I thought they were secret. Because he's not just any hunter, Aldrich turned to face her fully. He's from the Council bloodline. The same families who created the treaty. The same ones who could command marks like yours. His jaw tightened. Which brings me to my question, little mortal. How does a civilian end up engaged to one of the most dangerous hunter operatives in the Western Hemisphere? Myra's throat constricted. I didn't know. He told me he worked in security consulting. Private sector. And you believed him? I was 23 and alone. The words burst out of her. My parents died in a car accident. I had no family, no support system. Damien was charming, protective, attentive. He made me feel safe for the first time in years. I didn't question it because I was desperate not to be alone anymore. Something shifted in Aldrich's expression. Not quite sympathy, but understanding. He targeted you, Aldrich said quietly. Isolated you. Made you dependent. Yes, Myra's voice cracked. For 2 years. Then 6 months ago, he started. The rituals. He said they were protection spells. That the supernatural world was getting dangerous, and he needed to keep me safe. She laughed bitterly. I actually thanked him. God, I was so stupid. You were manipulated by someone who's had centuries of training in deception. Aldrich's hand caught her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. That's not stupidity. That's survival instinct being weaponized against you. The footsteps grew louder. Voices called out in the darkness. She has to be down here. Split up. Cover every passage. Aldrich cursed in a language Mira didn't recognize. He scanned the walls, then pressed his palm against what looked like solid stone. The walls shimmered and dissolved, revealing another passage. Through here. Quickly. They slipped inside just as torchlight appeared around the corner. The wall solidified behind them with a whisper. Aldrich's hand ignited with blue flame, illuminating a spiral staircase descending into deeper darkness. Where does this lead? The old city. The one that existed before humans built over it. He started down the stairs. We need answers, and there's only one place to get them. Mira followed, her hand trailing along the damp wall. What kind of answers? Why are Mark activated now? Why Damien's ritual failed? And most importantly, he glanced back at her. What the Mark actually wants from you. Wants? It's not alive. Isn't it? They reached the bottom of the stairs. The passage opened into a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow. Carved pillars stretched into darkness. And in the center, a circular altar covered in symbols that matched the ones Mira had seen glowing on her arm. Aldrich approached the altar cautiously. The convergence mark doesn't just appear randomly. It chooses its bearer based on criteria we still don't fully understand. Bloodline, yes. But also, compatibility. Compatibility with what? With destiny. He ran his fingers over the carved symbols. The mark appears when the balance between our worlds is threatened. Its bearer is meant to restore equilibrium, either through diplomacy or through blood. Myra's wrist began to burn. She looked down and saw the symbols glowing through her sleeve, brighter than before. It's reacting, Aldrich said sharply. The altar recognizes you. Step closer. I don't think. We don't have time for fear, Mira. Those hunters will find us eventually, and when they do, I need to know what you're truly capable of. Mira approached the altar. The burning intensified until it felt like her arm was on fire. She reached out, her fingers hovering over the stone. The symbols exploded with light. Power slammed through Mira like lightning. She screamed as visions flooded her mind, Damien holding a ritual knife, carving symbols into her flesh while she slept. Damien mixing her blood with ancient relics. Damien whispering promises to shadowy figures that her mark would belong to them. But beneath it all, another truth. The ritual had failed because the mark rejected him. Because Myra's subconscious had fought back, sensing his betrayal even when her waking mind couldn't accept it. The mark had been waiting for her to choose. Mira gasped and jerked her hand back. The light died. She stumbled, and Aldrich caught her. "What did you see?" "Everything," Mira whispered. "He drugged me. For months. The rituals weren't just spells. He was trying to rewrite my will. To make the mark think his intentions were mine." Aldrich's expression went cold and deadly. That level of violation. It's forbidden even among hunters. If the council knew. The council helped him. Myra's voice shook. "I saw them. In the visions. They funded everything. They wanted a weapon they could control." An explosion rocked the chamber. Stone crumbled from the ceiling. Damien's voice echoed through the catacombs, amplified by magic. "I know you're down there, Mira. You can't run forever." Aldrich pulled her close, his eyes blazing. "I can protect you.
Keep you alive.
But I need something in return." "What?" "Let me unlock the mark's full potential. Let me teach you to wield it. Because, right now, you're a nuclear weapon that doesn't know how to stop glowing." His grip tightened. "Work with me, and I'll make sure you're never anyone's puppet again." More explosions. The hunters were getting closer. Mira met his eyes. "And what do you get out of this?" Aldrich's smile was sharp as a blade. The satisfaction of ruining Damien's plans. And perhaps his thumb traced her cheek. "Something far more interesting." "Deal," Mira breathed. "Then hold on, little mortal. This is going to hurt." He placed both hands on her marked arm, and the world turned to fire. Mira woke to moonlight and the smell of ancient earth. She was lying on moss-covered stone, her body aching like she'd been hit by a truck. Above her, tree branches wove together so thick they nearly blotted out the sky. In the distance, she could hear running water. "You're awake. Good." Aldrich stood at the edge of a crumbling stone platform, his silhouette sharp against the night. They were surrounded by ruins, collapsed pillars, broken archways, walls overtaken by roots and vines. It looked like a temple had been swallowed by the forest centuries ago. "Where are we?" Myra's voice came out hoarse. "The Covenant grounds. Where the first treaty between hunters and vampires was signed." He turned to face her. "It's one of the few places where ancient magic still runs strong enough to awaken a dormant mark safely." "Safely?" Mira sat up, wincing. Every nerve in her body felt raw. "That didn't feel safe." "You're alive, aren't you?" "That's safer than what Damien would have done." Aldrich moved toward her with that predator's grace. "The mark is responding to the sacred ground. Can you feel it?" Mira looked down at her arm. The symbols were visible now without Aldrich's touch, glowing faintly beneath her skin like veins of liquid gold. And yes, she could feel something. A thrumming power that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. "What happens now?" "Now we see what you can actually do." Aldrich gestured to the ruins around them. "This place was built as a testing ground. The first hunters proved their worth here. So will you." "I'm not a hunter. You're now. Whether you wanted it or not." His eyes held no sympathy. "Stand up." Mira forced herself to her feet, swaying slightly. The world felt different.
Sharper.
She could hear things she shouldn't be able to. A rabbit's heartbeat in the underbrush, the whisper of wings overhead, the subtle shift of Aldrich's weight on the stone. "Focus on the mark," Aldrich instructed. "Feel the power inside it. Don't fight it. Let it flow." "I don't know how." "You do. Your body knows. Trust your instincts." Mira closed her eyes, reaching for that thrumming sensation. The power responded immediately, surging up her arm like fire. Her eyes snapped open. Light exploded from her hands. A nearby pillar shattered, stone fragments flying in all directions. Mira gasped and stumbled backward. The power inside her roared, demanding release, and another burst of energy shot from her palms. An archway crumbled. The ground cracked. "Stop!" Mira screamed. "I can't control it." Aldrich was there in an instant, his hands gripping her shoulders. "Yes, you can.
Breathe.
Look at me." Myra's vision blurred with panic. The power was too much, too big, trying to tear her apart from the inside. Mira, Aldrich's voice cut through the chaos. His hands moved to cup her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Breathe with me."
In. Out.
Slowly. She followed his rhythm, matching her breathing to his. The power began to settle, reluctantly coiling back into her core. "That's it," Aldrich murmured. "You're not fighting the power. You're guiding it. There's a difference." The golden light faded from her skin. Mira sagged against him, exhausted. "How do hunters do this?" she gasped. "How do they live with this inside them?" "Training. Years of it." His hands stayed on her face, steady and cool. "You're learning in hours what should take decades. But you're stronger than you know." A branch snapped in the forest. Aldrich's entire body went rigid. He pushed Mira behind him in one fluid motion, his eyes scanning the darkness. "I was wondering when you'd find us," he called out. Damien stepped from between the trees, alone this time. His hunter's coat was torn, his face bloodied, but his eyes burned with manic determination. "Did you really think you could hide her here?" Damien laughed, the sound unhinged. "I trained on these grounds, vampire. I know every inch of this place." "Then you know what happens to those who break the sanctuary with violent intent," Aldrich said coldly. "The old rules don't apply anymore." Damien raised his hand, and Mira saw the ritual blade, the same one from her visions. "The mark is mine. I just need to complete the binding." He lunged. Aldrich moved to intercept, but Damien was faster than before, enhanced by some kind of dark magic that left oily traces in the air. The blade slashed across Aldrich's chest. The Vampire King hissed and stumbled back. "No." Mira didn't think. She just reacted. Power exploded from her core, pure and instinctive. It wasn't light this time. It was force, invisible and devastating. The energy slammed into Damien like a physical blow, lifting him off his feet and hurling him 30 feet backward into a tree. The impact cracked the trunk. Damien slumped to the ground, gasping. Mira stared at her hands, shocked. "I did that. Actually, you did," Aldrich said, pride evident in his voice despite his injury. "That's what the mark is capable of when properly channeled." Damien struggled to his feet, coughing blood. His eyes locked on Mira with something between hatred and obsession. "You'll never be free of me," he snarled. "The council knows about you now. They'll send armies. They'll burn this entire forest down to get you back." "Let them try," Mira said, surprising herself with the steel in her voice. "I'm done being afraid of you." Damien smiled, blood staining his teeth. "You should be afraid. Because I'm not the worst thing coming for you, little bird. I was protecting you from them." And now he started backing into the forest. "Now, they know you can't be controlled. Which means they'll vote to eliminate you instead." He vanished into the darkness. Aldrich swayed, and Mira caught him. His chest wound was already healing, but slowly, too slowly. "That blade was poisoned," he muttered. "Hunter's silver mixed with something else. I need to rest. Then we need to move. Find somewhere safe." "No," his hand caught hers. "We go to my stronghold, to the vampire court. It's the only place they can't easily reach." "You want to take me to a palace full of vampires who probably hate humans?" Aldrich's smile was weak but genuine. "I want to keep you alive, little mortal. And right now, that means surrounding you with those who answer to me, not to the Hunter Council." His eyes met hers. "Besides, you just saved my life. I think I can trust you not to stake me in my sleep." Mira helped him stand, feeling the weight of the mark pulsing in her arm. Her old life was gone. Damien, the council, even her own humanity, everything she'd known was burning behind her. But as Aldrich leaned against her, his cold hand gripping hers for support, Mira realized something unexpected. For the first time in 2 years, she didn't feel helpless. She felt dangerous. The mountain palace was carved into the cliffs like a crown of obsidian and silver. Spires twisted toward the sky, windows glowing with crimson light. As Aldrich's car wound up the narrow mountain road, Mira felt dozens of eyes watching from the shadows. "They already know we're here," Aldrich said, his voice stronger now. The poison had worked through his system during the drive. "My court will be curious about you." Curious. That's one way to put it. Mira stared at the fortress looming above them. "Are they going to try to kill me?" "Some might want to," his honesty was jarring. "Others will want to use you. A few will want to study you like a specimen. None of them will trust you." "Wonderful. And you're taking me there because they're mine," Aldrich's eyes flashed. "And they'll obey me, even if they hate it. You'll be safer here than anywhere else in the world." The car pulled into an underground garage. Vampire attendants materialized from the shadows, their faces carefully blank as they opened the doors. But Mira could feel their stares, feel the weight of their judgment. "Human."
Weak. Prey.
Aldrich took her hand, and the gesture felt deliberate, a statement. "Stay close. Don't show fear. And whatever happens, let me handle the politics." They entered through massive doors that opened into a throne room that made the masquerade's chamber look quaint. The ceiling soared 60 feet high, held up by pillars carved with battle scenes. Vampires lined both sides of the hall, dozens of them, all ancient, all powerful. Their eyes tracked Mira like wolves watching wounded prey. At the far end, several vampires stood on the dais, where a throne of black stone waited. A woman with white hair and eyes like chips of ice stepped forward. "My lord returns," her voice dripped with false sweetness. "With a human pet."
How?
"Unexpected." Lady Seraphine, Aldrich's tone was pure ice. "This human is under my protection. She is not a pet. She is my guest." Murmurs rippled through the court. A male vampire with scarred features laughed outright. "A guest? Come now, Aldrich. We can smell hunter magic on her. She's a weapon. The question is, whose weapon?" "Mine," Aldrich said flatly. "Mira carries a convergence mark. The Hunter Council tried to bind it, failed, and now wants her eliminated. I've offered her sanctuary." The throne room erupted. Vampires hissed and argued, their voices overlapping. "A convergence mark? That's impossible. The Council will declare war if we harbor her. She could kill us all if the mark activates." "Enough," Aldrich's voice cracked like thunder. Power radiated from him, pressing against every vampire in the room. They fell silent. "I am still king of this court."
My word is law.
"Mira stays." Seraphine's smile was razor-sharp. "Of course, my lord. But the court has questions. Surely you understand our concern?" The last time a marked human walked these halls, half the court died in the purge that followed. "That was 3 centuries ago," Aldrich said coldly. "And that human was controlled by hunters. Mira is not." "How can you be certain?" Seraphine descended the dais, circling Mira like a shark. "She appears quite devoted to you already. Convenient, isn't it? A powerful weapon falling into your lap, literally, just when the council grows bold." Mira felt the accusation like a slap. "I'm not a plant. I didn't even know what I was until yesterday." "Silence, human." Seraphine's eyes flashed red. "You don't speak unless given permission." "She speaks when she wishes." Aldrich moved between them. "And you will show her respect, Seraphine, or I'll remind you why I'm king and you're not." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Seraphine held Aldrich's gaze for a long moment, then dipped her head in mock submission. "As you wish, my lord. But answer me this. What do you intend to do with her? Train her? Use her against the council?" Or her smile turned knowing. "Keep her." Aldrich's jaw tightened. That's none of your concern. It's the court's concern if you're making decisions based on attachment rather than strategy. Seraphine's gaze flickered to where Aldrich's hand still held Myra's. We've all seen how you look at her, Aldrich. How you touch her. It's been a long time since anything caught your interest, hasn't it? The room went deathly quiet. Mira felt Aldrich tense beside her. My personal affairs are not up for debate, he said, each word precise and lethal. They are when they affect the court's safety. An older vampire stepped forward, his expression grave. Forgive my bluntness, my lord, but Seraphine has a point. You've never taken a human companion before. You've never offered sanctuary to someone the council actively hunts. And now, within 24 hours of meeting this girl, you've brought her into the heart of our stronghold. He paused. It appears impulsive. Mira saw the trap. They weren't just questioning Aldrich's judgment. They were questioning his control, his fitness to lead. And if he admitted any attachment to her, they'd use it against him. He saved my life, Mira said, pulling her hand free from Aldrich's. Every vampire in the room focused on her. And I saved his. That's all. I'm not here to seduce your king or infiltrate your court. I'm here because hunters want me dead and Aldrich offered me a chance to survive long enough to fight back. She stepped forward, addressing the court directly. You want to know what my intentions are? I intend to learn how to control this mark. Then I intend to make the council regret every moment they manipulated me. If that means working with Aldrich, fine. If that threatens you, too bad. The scarred vampire laughed, genuine amusement in his voice.
She has spine.
I'll give her that. Seraphine's eyes narrowed. Bravery or stupidity, time will tell. Very well, human.
You may stay.
But know this. We'll be watching. Every move. Every word. And if you betray us, her fangs gleamed. The king's protection won't save you from me. Aldrich placed a hand on Myra's shoulder. Show her to the guest quarters. The East Wing. And send someone with appropriate clothing. The East Wing. Seraphine's eyebrows rose. Those are the family quarters, my lord. Reserved for. I'm aware of what they're reserved for. Aldrich's tone left no room for argument. Mira will stay where I can ensure her safety. Dismissed. The court dispersed slowly, vampires casting backward glances at Mira, some curious, some hostile, all calculating. When they were finally alone, Aldrich exhaled. Welcome to vampire politics. Still think this was a good idea? Myra's hands were shaking, but she forced a smile. Ask me after I've had about 3 hours of sleep and a locked door. Something shifted in Aldrich's expression. For just a moment, the mask of the king fell away, and she saw something genuine underneath.
Concern.
And something else. Something that made her pulse quicken. Come, he said softly. I'll show you to your rooms, personally. And Mira? He caught her hand again, this time with gentleness that felt almost tender. Thank you. For defending me back there. You didn't have to. You've protected me from everyone else. Seemed fair to protect you from your own court. Aldrich's smile was real this time, small, but honest. And Mira realized with a jolt that this might be the first genuine smile he'd given anyone in decades. Careful, little mortal, he murmured. You're making it very difficult for me to remain objective about you. Her breath caught. Is that a problem? His thumb traced her wrist, right over the mark. Ask me again when you're not about to collapse from exhaustion. But as they walked through the palace corridors, Mira couldn't help wondering. What would she say when he asked again? Mira woke to screams. She bolted upright in the massive bed, her heart hammering. Through the window, she saw fire, orange and violent against the night sky. Explosions rocked the palace, and somewhere below, people were dying. The door burst open. Aldrich stood there, already armed, his face grim. They're here. The council sent their elite forces. He crossed to her in 3 strides, pulling her from the bed. We need to move.
Now.
How many? 50 hunters. Maybe more. He grabbed a cloak from the wardrobe, wrapping it around her shoulders. They've breached the outer walls. Seraphine is leading the defense, but they came prepared. Holy water, silver, UV weapons. They're not here to negotiate. Another explosion shook the palace. Mira stumbled, and Aldrich caught her. Where do we go? The mountain paths. There's an old escape route carved into the cliffs. His eyes met hers. But Mira, if they catch us, if they get you, don't let them take you alive. The mark is too powerful. They'll torture you until you break, then use you to kill everyone I've ever cared about. Before she could respond, he pressed a silver dagger into her hand. Promise me.
If it comes to that.
It won't. Myra's fingers closed around the blade. We're getting out of this. They ran. The palace was chaos. Vampires fought hunters in the corridors, blood splashing across marble floors. Mira saw Lady Seraphine tear through 3 hunters within human speed, her white hair streaked with crimson. The scarred vampire she'd seen in court held a doorway against a dozen attackers, roaring defiance. Aldrich led her through a servant's passage, downstairs that spiraled into darkness. Behind them, she heard Damien's voice amplified by magic. Mira, I know you can hear me. Come out peacefully, and I'll call off the attack. These vampire deaths are on your hands. Guilt twisted in Myra's chest. Aldrich, your people. Our warriors who chose this fight. He didn't slow. Don't let him manipulate you. That's what he does best. They burst out onto a cliff path, so narrow Myra's breath caught. To the right, a sheer drop into darkness. To the left, the mountain face. Wind whipped her hair as they edged along the path, the palace burning behind them. Halfway across, Aldrich stopped abruptly. His hand shot out, pressing Mira against the cliff wall. What? Quiet, his eyes scanned the darkness ahead. Then, softer. Ambush. They knew about this route. Hunters materialized from the shadows, 6 of them, blocking the path forward. Behind Mira and Aldrich, 3 more emerged from the palace tunnel, cutting off retreat. They were trapped. The lead hunter stepped forward, and Myra's blood went cold. It was Marcus, Damien's second-in-command. She'd met him once at a council dinner. He'd seemed kind then. Now his eyes were empty. Lord Aldrich, Marcus said formally. Surrender the girl, and we'll allow you safe passage. How generous! Aldrich's voice stripped sarcasm. Except we both know that's a lie. The council wants me dead as much as they want her controlled. True, Marcus raised his crossbow. But we're willing to make your death quick. Hers will take considerably longer. Aldrich's power exploded outward, but the hunters were ready. They activated wards that glowed toxic green, neutralizing his magic. Silver bolts fired from multiple directions. Aldrich took 3 hits: shoulder, thigh, chest. He dropped to one knee with a hiss of pain.
No.
Myra's mark ignited, power flooding her system. But before she could release it, Marcus spoke. Careful, girl. One burst of energy on this narrow path and you'll send all of us, including your vampire king, over the edge. Mira froze.
He was right.
The path was too narrow, too unstable. Any attack would be suicide. Marcus smiled. Smart. Now, let me tell you what Damien wouldn't. What the mark really does. I know what it does, Mira said through gritted teeth. It's a weapon. It's not a weapon. Marcus lowered his crossbow slightly. It's a prophecy engine. The mark doesn't just give you power, Mira. It shows you the future. Specifically, one future. The death of the supernatural ruler you're destined to kill. Ice flooded Myra's veins. What? Every bearer of a convergence mark sees the same vision eventually. The face of the king they'll destroy. The method of his death. It's inevitable. Written into the mark's magic, his eyes flickered to Aldrich. Damien suspected, of course. That's why he tried so hard to bind you. He knew that once the mark fully awakened, you'd see your victim's face. Aldrich's expression was carefully blank, but Mira saw the tension in his shoulders. You're lying, she whispered. Am I? Then, why hasn't Aldrich told you about the prophecy? Marcus's smile widened. Every vampire royal knows the history. The last marked human fell in love with the vampire queen of the Eastern Courts. 6 months later, she drove a stake through the queen's heart, unable to resist the mark's command. That can't. The mark chooses its victim based on proximity and power. Marcus took a step closer. You've been with Aldrich for 2 days. You've touched him, trusted him, maybe even started to care for him. Which means the mark has already decided. He gestured to Aldrich. He's the king you're prophesied to kill. No, but even as Mira said it, her mark burned. Images flashed through her mind. Aldrich on his knees, blood streaming from his chest, her own hand holding a silver blade. Mira, don't listen. Aldrich struggled to stand despite his injuries. The prophecy isn't absolute. There are ways to. To what? Break it. Marcus laughed. No one's ever broken a convergence prophecy, Lord Aldrich. You know that. Which means you've been harboring your own executioner. He raised his crossbow again. So, here's our new offer. Come with us, Mira, and we'll teach you to control when the mark activates. You can live a normal life, far from any supernatural politics. Or stay with him and watch yourself murder the first person who's protected you in years. The mark burned hotter. The vision intensified, Aldrich's eyes, wide with betrayal, as her blade found his heart. That's why you didn't tell me, Mira breathed, looking at Aldrich. You knew, from the beginning. Something cracked in Aldrich's expression.
Yes.
I knew about the prophecy, but prophecies can be changed, Mira. I've spent centuries learning how to. You used me, her voice broke. Just like Damien. You let me think I was safe with you, that you actually cared when really you were just trying to find a way to keep us both alive. Aldrich's composure shattered. Yes, I knew the risk. Yes, I knew what the mark might eventually force you to do. But I also knew that you deserved a choice. That you deserved to be more than a weapon or a prophecy. His eyes blazed. I was going to tell you once we reached safety. Once you had time to. A crossbow fired. The bolt took Aldrich in the chest, inches from his heart. He stumbled backward, dangerously close to the cliff's edge. Enough talking, Marcus said coldly. Decide now, Mira. Come with us, or watch him die before the prophecy ever gets a chance to play out. Mira looked at Aldrich, wounded, bleeding, but still standing between her and the hunters. Still protecting her even knowing she might be destined to kill him. And she made her choice. I choose myself, Mira said. Her mark exploded with power, but not outward. Inward. She felt the prophecy's magic trying to take control, trying to force her hand toward violence. And she fought it, pushed back against centuries of predetermined fate with nothing but raw will and fury. I don't care what the prophecy says. Power cracked through her voice. I don't care what the mark wants. I choose my own destiny. The mark's light turned from gold to white-hot silver. The prophecy shattered. And when Mira released the energy, it didn't explode randomly. It went exactly where she directed it. The energy burst from Mira like a silver tsunami. It didn't explode wildly. It moved with surgical precision, slamming into the hunters behind her, sending them over the cliff's edge with screams that faded into darkness. The hunters in front staggered back, their wards crackling and failing under the onslaught. Marcus fired his crossbow in desperation. Mira raised her hand, and the bolt stopped midair, suspended in silver light, then disintegrated.
Impossible, Marcus Breted.
You can't control it yet. You shouldn't be able to. I said I choose myself. Mira's voice echoed with power. That means I decide what the mark does. Not prophecy.
Not you.
Me. She released another pulse, and the remaining hunters scattered, fleeing back toward the palace. All except Marcus, who stood frozen, staring at her with something between awe and terror. Damien needs to know, he whispered. You're not just marked. You've mastered it. Without training. Without binding, he turned and ran. Mira, let him go. She had bigger problems. Aldrich collapsed. No. Mira dropped beside him, her hands hovering over the bolts protruding from his chest. Hold on. Just hold on. Mira, his voice was weak. The prophecy. Did you really break it or did you just... I don't know, her hands were shaking. But I know I'm not going to kill you. I refuse. So we're going to find another way. He laughed, then coughed blood. Stubborn little mortal. Learned from the best, she tried to smile, but tears streaked her face. Don't you dare die on me, Vampire King. Not after everything. Wouldn't dream of it. The cliff path trembled. Mira looked up to see flames spreading from the palace, but not from the battle. Someone had set deliberate charges. The entire mountain was being rigged to collapse. They're going to bury us all, Aldrich rasped. Including the evidence that you exist. A figure emerged from the smoke and fire. Damien, his face a mask of rage and obsession, carrying an ornate box that radiated dark magic. You've ruined everything. He stalked toward them. 2 years of planning. 2 years of rituals. And you throw it away for him? He kicked Aldrich's leg, making the vampire grunt in pain. Stop. Mira tried to stand, but Damien was faster. He grabbed her by the throat, slamming her against the cliff wall. I was going to make you a queen, he hissed. With your mark and my guidance, we could have controlled the entire supernatural world. But no, you had to develop free will. You had to think for yourself. His grip tightened. Black spots danced across Myra's vision. So now I use Plan B. Damien opened the box with one hand. Inside were ancient relics, a chalice, a dagger, fragments of bone. These belonged to the first marked human. Her blood, her tools, her power. If I mix them with yours in this sacred place, I can transfer the mark to myself. You're insane, Mira gasped. The mark chose me. The mark chose a bloodline. Blood is transferable. He pulled out the ritual dagger. This will hurt, little bird. But don't worry. Once I have the mark, I'll make sure your death is quick. Professional. Nothing personal. He raised the dagger. Aldrich moved. Despite the silver bolts, despite the poison, despite being on the edge of death, Aldrich lunged. He caught Damien's wrist, forcing the dagger away from Myra's throat. Touch her again, Aldrich snarled, his eyes blazing red, and prophecy be damned, I'll tear your heart out with my bare hands. Damien slammed the box into Aldrich's wounded chest. The Vampire King screamed as dark magic ignited, reacting with the silver in his bloodstream. He fell, convulsing. Aldrich. Myra's mark exploded with fury. She grabbed Damien's wrist, the one holding the dagger, and her power surged into him. Damien screamed. The mark's energy invaded his body, searching for something to bind to. But there was nothing. No hunter's bloodline.
No compatibility.
Just a man who'd artificially grafted power he was never meant to wield. The magic rejected him violently.
No, no.
It's mine. I earned it. Damien's ritual enhancements began unraveling. The spells he'd layered on himself, the dark magic he'd consumed, all of it turned toxic. His skin cracked, light bleeding through the fissures. Mira felt the prophecy's magic stirring again, but different this time. Not showing her Aldrich's death, showing her Damien's. And she understood. The prophecy was never about Aldrich, she breathed. It was about you. The mark had shown her killing a king, but not a vampire king. A false king. The one who'd tried to crown himself through her power. You were the ruler I was meant to destroy, Mira said. You positioned yourself as a king by controlling me. And the mark saw through it from the beginning.
No.
Damien lunged at her with the dagger, desperate to complete the ritual, to take what he thought was his. Mira caught his wrist. The mark's full power channeled through her touch. This is for every lie, every manipulation, every moment you made me doubt myself. Her voice was cold. You wanted a weapon? Here's what happens when the weapon decides to fire back. Pure energy exploded from her palm into Damien's body. Not random, not wild. Precise and controlled, burning away every trace of stolen magic, every artificial enhancement, every piece of power he'd stolen from others. Damien's screams turned to silence. He dropped the dagger, staggered backward, and fell. Not over the cliff. Onto his knees. Completely human. Completely powerless. Alive, but broken. "The council will kill you for this failure," Mira said quietly. "They'll erase you like you tried to erase me. That's your punishment, living with the knowledge that you're nothing special. You never were." She turned her back on him and dropped beside Aldrich. The Vampire King's eyes were glazed with pain, but he was smiling. "Remind me never to make you angry." Too late. "I'm furious." Mira placed her hands on his chest. "But I'm directing it productively." She let the mark's healing energy flow into him, gently this time, carefully. The silver bolts pushed out of his flesh. The wounds began to close. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. Aldrich gasped as strength returned. "The palace is about to collapse." "I know," Mira helped him stand. "Can you get us out?" "With you?" Always. He pulled her close and launched them off the cliff. Mira screamed, then realized he was flying, or gliding on currents of dark magic. They soared away from the mountain as the palace detonated behind them, the explosions lighting up the night sky. Behind them, Damien knelt alone on the burning path, surrounded by ruins, exactly as hollow as he'd always been inside. The false king had fallen, and Mira had chosen her own destiny. 3 weeks later, Mira stood in the ruins of the Midnight Masquerade Ballroom. Workers, human and supernatural alike, cleared debris and rebuilt walls. The underground sanctuary had been damaged in the battle's aftermath, but not destroyed, just like the treaty itself. "Strange, isn't it?" Aldrich's voice came from behind her. "How quickly things change." Mira turned. He looked different in daylight, not weaker, but softer somehow. More real. The ancient vampire king wore a simple black shirt instead of royal regalia, and his hair was tied back casually. "The council collapsed faster than I expected," Mira said. Damien wasn't the only one involved in illegal binding rituals. Once investigators started digging, Aldrich moved to stand beside her. "Turns out half the council was corrupt. The other half is scrambling to salvage their reputation. And the hunters who weren't corrupt are cautiously optimistic about renegotiating the treaty. Especially since you proved marked humans don't have to be weapons." His eyes held warmth. "You've become something of a legend, you know. The woman who broke a prophecy through sheer stubbornness." Mira laughed. "Is that what they're calling it?" Among other things, Aldrich's expression grew serious. "The vampire courts are stabilizing. Seraphine is overseeing reconstruction of the mountain palace. The eastern courts want to meet you. The southern territories are offering alliances." He paused. "And I've been formally petitioned to take a queen." Mira's heart stuttered. "Oh, by my council, not by me." He stepped closer. "They think a strong marriage alliance would cement the new peace. Preferably to someone powerful. Someone who's proven they can stand against both vampire politics and hunter manipulation. Let me guess, they suggested someone from another vampire bloodline?" "Actually, no." Aldrich's smile was crooked. "They suggested you." Mira's breath caught. "What?" "Seraphine led the petition, if you can believe it. She said, and I quote, 'If we're going to have a human queen, it might as well be the one who's already proven she won't kill him.'" His fingers brushed Mira's cheek. "The court has never seen me protect anyone the way I protected you. They know what that means, even if I tried to hide it." "And what does it mean?" Mira's voice was barely a whisper. Aldrich cupped her face with both hands. "It means that for the first time in 300 years, I met someone who made me want something beyond duty and survival. It means you sitting in my lap at that masquerade changed everything, not just the political landscape, but me." "Aldrich." "But," he continued, his thumb tracing her jaw, "I'm not asking you to be my queen. I'm not asking you to bind yourself to vampire politics or courtly intrigue. You just escaped one cage. I won't build you another, no matter how gilded." Relief and disappointment warred in Mira's chest. "Then what are you asking?" "Nothing." His smile was gentle. "I'm offering The mountain palace will be rebuilt with a wing specifically designed for you, your space, your rules. You can come and go as you please. Learn to master the mark fully. Build whatever life you want.
And you?
Myra's hand covered his. What do you want? I want you safe. I want you happy. He hesitated, and for the first time, she saw uncertainty in the ancient vampire's eyes. I want to be part of your life, if you'll have me. Not as a king claiming a subject. As someone who cares about you more than is probably wise. Myra's mark pulsed gently, warm rather than burning. The prophecy was truly broken, she'd proven that. Which meant the future was unwritten. Hers to choose. I don't want to be a queen, she said slowly. I don't want a crown or a throne or political power. Aldrich's expression carefully neutral. I understand. But, Mira interrupted, stepping closer, I do want a partnership.
En alliance.
Someone who sees me as an equal, not a weapon or a trophy or something to protect. Always, Aldrich breathed. From the moment you sat in my lap, you've been my equal. Then here's my counteroffer. Myra's smile was bold. I'll help rebuild the treaty. I'll work with both communities as an independent mediator. I'll master the mark and use it to maintain peace, not wage war. And I'll live in your palace, not as your queen, but as your partner, your ally. And his eyes gleamed with hope. And maybe, eventually, Mira rose on her toes, her lips brushing his ear the way his had brushed hers that first night. Something more, but on my terms. My timeline, my choice. Done. Aldrich's arms wrapped around her waist. Though I reserve the right to try to convince you I'm worth choosing. You already did that when you let me choose myself. Mira pulled back to meet his eyes. You know what's funny? Sitting on your lap to escape Damien was pure desperation. I had no plan, no strategy. Just fear. And now. Mira threaded her fingers through his hair and smiled. Now if I choose to sit in your lap, it'll be because I actually want to. Not because I'm running from something, but because I'm running toward something. And what would that something be? Instead of answering, Mira kissed him. It was nothing like she'd imagined kissing a vampire would be. His lips were cool but not cold, gentle but not hesitant. He kissed her like she was precious, like she was powerful, like she was exactly who she was supposed to be. When they broke apart, Aldrich was smiling. That real, unguarded smile she'd seen only once before. I'll take that as a promising start, he murmured. Very promising. Mira glanced around the rebuilding ballroom. So, we've got a treaty to rewrite, communities to unite, and a new era to build. Together? Together, she took his hand, her marked arm intertwining with his. The symbols glowed faintly, not with prophecy or violence, but with promise. Though fair warning, I'm terrible at vampire politics. Good. They could use some disruption. Aldrich lifted her hand to his lips. Besides, I didn't fall for a proper vampire queen. I fell for a stubborn mortal who redefined destiny by refusing to accept the rules. Fell for. Myra's heart raced. Too soon? His eyes danced with amusement. Ask me again in a few months, but Mira was grinning. For now, let's just say, I'm very interested in seeing where this goes. Then let me start with this. Aldrich pulled her close again. Thank you, Mira. For trusting me when you had every reason not to. For choosing to stay when you could have run. For showing me that even ancient kings can learn something new. What did you learn? That prophecy and fate are just suggestions. He pressed his forehead to hers. And that sometimes the best alliances start with someone brave enough to sit in a stranger's lap and whisper, please. Mira laughed, the sound echoing through the ruins and the new beginning they were building from the ashes. The midnight masquerade would open again. The treaty would be stronger. The supernatural and human worlds would find new balance. And somewhere in the middle of it all, a woman who'd been manipulated and controlled had finally found what she'd been searching for all along. Freedom.
Partnership.
And maybe, just maybe, love. Not because destiny demanded it, but because she chose it.